Okay. Hello, everyone. We are conducting a session on communication skill, how to improve our communication skill. We have discussed this in detail with Sir Cyrus Magol. Now we start our conversation. Hello, sir. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Maria. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Thank you so much
Alhamdulillah.
for your precious time.
My pleasure.
I think today's our topic is very important topic in today's world.
Correct. Very important.
Yes. Especially when we are doing interviews, podcast, or any other thing.
Even while talking and speaking and listening with family, in the organization, at work, on podcasts, absolutely. Communication is very important. Communication skills are very important.
We try to cover our main topics
Okay.
so everyone learn from our topic. I just rename myself. Oh, sorry. Now, please tell me how we start our communication in a good way.
Briefly and concisely, to the point.
Yes, it is very important. I agree with you.
So, why do you think it should be brief and why do you think communication should be concise?
Because other person must be bored from our conversation when it is not to the point.
Very, very important. No one will tell you on your face, excuse me, can you please stop talking? I'm feeling bored. No one says that. So
Yes,
we have to understand that we must talk briefly and to the point.
yes.
Okay, what's your next question?
No. Yes. Now tell us how we welcome our guest when we are doing any session, any podcast, anything in a good way.
Naturally,
Okay.
naturally, just be yourself. One should be themselves. Just be yourself, just be natural. Okay?
Okay.
So when you're conducting interviews, when you're conducting podcasts, just be yourself. That's all.
Tell us some key points how we improve our communication skills when we are at initial
Okay.
stage and we thought that
Okay.
our communication skills are not very good.
Okay. So there are many aspects and many areas within communication skills. So as you said, communication skills are vital in today's world, yesterday's world, and in tomorrow's world. How people interact with each other, how they open their mouth and talk to each other, how they close their mouth and listen to the other person. These are very, very important skills in communication. So you asked me a broad question, what is communication? How do we improve our communication? So I'll go point by point. But surprisingly, I will tell you the one most important point right now is for everyone listening, and hopefully you as well, because I've got a pen in front of me and a paper in front of me. So the discipline of writing something down, the discipline of writing something down is to make it happen. So I very strongly believe that when someone is communicating with you, as far as possible, have a paper and pen ready where you note down points. The reason why you should write points down is because you don't want to interrupt the other person while they are talking. Just make a couple of word notings. Just note down a couple of words, because for those few seconds that you're writing those couple of words, you're not focused on what the other person is saying. So the main reason for not taking a dictation or not writing long sentences of what the other person is saying. You must just write down words and try to focus on what the other person is saying. Okay? So
Yes.
my discipline in life, in my personal life and in my professional life, is that I always have a paper and pen in front of me. An executive or a student without a pen is like a soldier without a sword. Okay, so this
Okay.
is your ammunition. Your pen is your ammunition. Because in today's world, somebody will say, I've got my cell phone and I'll take notes on my cell phone. I think that is quite rude, because today everyone is seen glued to their phone, to their iPhone. Okay,
Yes, I agree with you. Yes.
families going out for dinner, or families hopefully having dinner together at home, all of them are either eating and on their phone or just on their phone. It's rude, and I don't think it is very healthy as far as life is concerned, relationships are concerned, and when communication skills is concerned. So, coming back to your question, what are the important things in communication? The first thing I feel is, and I'm saying this because I want people listening to take down notes as they listen to our podcast, your questions, my questions, your thoughts, my thoughts, whatever resonates with you, whatever you feel is an important point for you, just note those few words down. Why? Because later on you will hopefully refer to those points and do your own research, or you may have questions regarding that point or those points that you've written down after the person stops talking. Okay, so one is taking down notes. That's the first one. Okay, so I'll also make a note so that hopefully at the end of this podcast, we can just summarize as to what are the points we talked about. So, first is the discipline of taking notes. In
Yes.
communication, there's something called interpersonal communication and intrapersonal communication. So, let's not get confused by terminologies. Communication is like you and I are talking, two people are talking. This is interpersonal. You are talking, I'm listening, you are talking. Hopefully. Hopefully
Yes.
meaning while I'm talking, hopefully you are listening. And when I'm talking and you are nodding your head, hopefully you are focused in what I'm saying and paying attention to what I'm saying. You can only be focused to what I'm saying, and if you can pay attention if you only listen or try to listen to what I'm saying. So you're listening with your ears, but at the same time, your mind is working on what I'm saying. So I'm speaking to Maria just now, and if Maria is analyzing what I'm saying, and Maria is getting ready to interrupt me, and Maria is preparing questions in her mind of what I'm saying, then you cannot be listening fully, and you definitely will not understand what I'm saying. Okay?
Yes. I
So,
totally understand your point. Yes.
okay. It is very, very difficult to focus and concentrate as a human being. Why? Because you haven't trained yourself in focusing when the other person is talking.
Yes.
There are lots of surveys which say that people can focus from 7 to 11 minutes or 6 to 30 minutes. These are all data and statistics. What is very important is when the other person is talking at home, at school, at work, in your social life, listen attentively to the other person. Look into her eyeballs or his eyeballs. Immediately, many people will think, oh, but that is against my culture. We don't look into our eyes, we look down. That's a different topic. But I'm just trying to explain something to you that normal human beings and majority of the human beings in the world prefer that you look into their eyes when they are talking, because then they are feeling and have the perception that you are listening attentively to them.
Yes.
The most important thing that you can do for someone else is give them your time and to listen to them. We as human beings love to talk. We love to talk and we love to listen to our own voice. When we talk, while I'm talking right now, I'm sharing with you what I already know. So if I go on and on and on and on talking, I won't learn anything. I'm already telling and sharing what I already know. So how can I be learning something new? But if I have the habit and the discipline to shut my mouth and listen more than I speak, then hopefully I will learn something more from the other person. Okay?
Yes.
So focus and attention. Okay? Okay. So we said focus and attention.
Please give me 1 minute.
Listening to,
Give me one
yeah,
minute. Yes.
yes, Maria.
Yes. Continue.
Okay. So where was I? What was I saying?
We are talking about communication skill key points.
Yes. So what
Focus,
was the last thing I said?
focus and give attention to other person very carefully. Listen very carefully.
Why? Because you want to show the other person that you are interested in them.
Yes.
Imagine you are talking to someone and that someone is at that same time on their phone. And on top of it, they're saying, carry on, I'm listening. No, they cannot be listening. And definitely they are not listening 100% or fully or completely.
Yes.
So, again, I will explain very briefly. How do we listen attentively? We listen attentively by our body language. So when I'm talking to you and you are the only person in front of me, I am observing your body language and I'm observing where your eyeballs are going. So if you're not looking at the screen at all the time and you're looking left and right, I'm assuming that there's someone in the room and that person is more important to you or saying something to you than I'm saying and then what I'm saying to you. Normally, people will not say, excuse me, are you listening to me? Are you attentive to what I'm saying? You're looking up and down and somewhere else. Is someone else in the room disturbing you? People normally don't talk like that. But they should. They should respectfully clarify these things. So, firstly, you communicate with your body language. So, if I'm talking, you are communicating to me with your body language by showing me attention and focus. So, with my eyes, I'm noticing that you are focused and attentive to what I'm saying.
Yes. True.
While I'm speaking, you are listening attentively, which means, next point, new point, which means you are trying to listen to what I'm saying and not form opinions or start creating answers in your mind of what you are going to say next. When I'm talking, you are showing to me with your body language that you're listening to me, but in your mind, you are creating answers or are ready to interject or interrupt, or you're creating new questions or answers into your mind. You are now desperate because you have kept your mouth shut for such a long time. You are dying to speak. So therefore, people make this big mistake of they keep on interrupting people. They never allow people to finish what they're saying. Because they don't have the habit of concentrating and focusing in what the person is saying. Maybe I'm not interesting to you. Maybe what I'm saying is not interesting to you. Maybe the topic is of no interest to you or little interest to you. So it is very natural that you won't have focus on what I'm saying. It's very natural. So when you don't have the attention, when you don't have the focus, it is a natural thing. Don't worry. But how do we improve? We improve by practicing to focus on what the listener is saying without interrupting the other person. So I've just explained to you how to listen. Another point of how to listen. For example, while you are listening to what I'm saying, don't start forming opinions and ideas in your mind. They will keep coming to you, but cut that thought in your mind and keep on trying to practice to listen to what the other person is saying, what I'm saying, without having questions and formulating answers and clarifications in your mind. When I'm talking, your job is only to listen, not to start clarifying what I'm saying or ready to pounce on me and say, oh, Cyrus, you said this, therefore you're wrong, and I feel this is not right. And we interrupt people like this because we want to be heard. We feel we are correct. We feel we are right. We feel what we are saying is important. It is the other way around. When we keep our mouth shut and genuinely listen to what the other person is saying, the other person knows, they can feel it, that we are listening attentively and genuinely towards what they are saying. That is respect. Okay? So,
Yes.
again, your question, what are the different things in communication? And I have just explained listening fully. Okay. And I've explained how to listen. Okay? And it won't come naturally. You have to practice. That means when you're listening to other people, practice to keep your mouth shut. Practice not to form opinions and ideas and get ready to shoot answers, but practice to be calm and listen fully.
Yes.
That's when you can hopefully understand what the other person is saying. Do you know that how will I, because I'm the person talking just now, you are in front of me. How will I know that you, now I'm going on another point of communication. How will I know that you have fully understood what I'm saying? The answer is when you say, Cyrus, now I understand what you're saying. I understand exactly what you're saying. So when you say that, I feel that I have been a good communicator and I have been able to explain to you what I wanted to say.
You
But
feel
that's
it
only a
from my
thinking that I have.
you feel it from my face expression, from body language, as you told before. Yes.
Correct. Okay. Now, as we are, okay, so who is a good communicator? A good communicator is someone who is thinking and then the words are coming out congruently from their mouth. So the sequence of their thinking is clear, and therefore the sequence of their words are flowing beautifully. Language has got nothing to do with communication. If your English is excellent, it is quite possible that you're a bad communicator. Your English language is good, but you may not be a good communicator in English. The test of that is that if you feel that you are a champion in Urdu and you speak better Urdu than English, it's a very simple test. Your communication in Urdu is guaranteed not clear, just like your communication in English is not clear. Because words are coming out of your mouth in two different languages, but the thought process can be in English, can be in Urdu, and can be in Chinese. But if your thought process is all jumbled up, your wordings out of your mouth will be jumbled up. So the sequence in which you think And in the sequence in which you talk, the words that flow out of your mouth, that is the key to success. That is the key to successful, clear communication. If I have a certain thought in my mind, and if I am able to explain exactly what is in my thought, I explain through my words. And if, listen to this next sentence carefully, please. And if you take action exactly as I thought and said, then I know that I'm a good communicator, because you answered exactly what I was thinking and saying. But what people do is they make a mistake, that I'm asking a question, I'm saying something, they want to interrupt, they quickly start saying something, and they're talking something completely different, or talking on the same point but a different thought. Therefore, the few more things come into communication, key skills in communication. When I'm talking to you, listen attentively, take notes, don't interrupt. While you're taking notes for a couple of seconds, yes, your mind will go to what I'm saying, but it will go away for only a few seconds compared to the whole sentence you're writing, and your mind will be away from me for 7, 8, 9 seconds while you're writing the entire sentence. If you only write a word, your mind will go away from me, from what I'm saying, just for a second. Okay. When I'm saying something to you, and if you don't understand something, you can do two things. You can take a note of that and then ask me when I finish, or you can say, excuse me, can I interject, or can I ask you a question? And I will say, yes, of course, go ahead and ask me a question. The reason why you will see many teachers and trainers and professors telling their students, don't ask me any questions until I finish my topic or my discussion. Don't ask me questions until we finish the presentation slides that you're watching. Why do these people say, don't interrupt me? Because they love to talk. They want to dominate the class by talking all the time. They don't care whether the other people in the class and the students and the other people are listening to them or not. To them, the most important thing is they listen to their own voice, their slides, and they've got 200 slides or 50 slides or 74 slides, and they want to get those slides finished. And if someone says, excuse me, sir, madam, I have a question, and they listen to the question, they might say, please wait for this answer. This answer will come on slide number 63. Why do they do this? Why do people do this? Professors, teachers, others. Why don't they answer people immediately? Because they don't want to break their thought process. Either they are like a parrot and saying the same thing over and over again for the last 20 years while they're teaching that same topic. But what I would prefer is, I would from the very beginning say, please interrupt me, please interject, please ask me any questions as we go along. Why? Because your questions are more important to me than what I have to say to you. So let's say again, I'm talking, you have a question, you ask me that question, I answer that question to the best of my ability, and then I say, so Maria, what did you understand from what I just said? So you will again tell me what you understood. And I say, no, this is not what I said. I will try and again explain to you what I'm saying. Again, I will ask you, if I'm a good communicator, I will ask you, what did you understand? You had a question. You asked me a question. I tried to explain to you the answer. Before I go on to my speech or my training or my conversation, I should ask you, did you understand? And you say, yes. And I should say, what did you understand? And you reply to me and you tell me, this is what you understood of what I just said. And I may say, but no, Maria, this is not what I meant and this is not what I said. So the conversation is like a ping pong game until and unless you don't understand what I'm trying to say. I am the bad communicator. You are not the bad listener. If you don't understand what I am saying, I am a bad communicator. I'll say this again slowly. If you, the opposite person listening to me, do not understand what I'm saying, I am a bad communicator. There's nothing wrong with you unless you're not paying attention to what I'm saying. So, therefore, a good communicator will always take the other person or people along with him in his conversation. So when he's saying something or she's saying something, from time to time, a good communicator should say, are you all with me? Do you all understand what I'm saying? Do you have any questions? And then shut them out and listen and wait for a question. Do you have any questions? Then they go on speaking. Do you have any questions is a question. So if you ask a question, shut your mouth, give them time to think, and give them the opportunity to ask the question. You can't say, do you have any questions? And you go on talking. So anyone, do you have any question for me? Then I shut my mouth. This is called silence. This is letting the other person, giving the other person a few seconds to think about the question and ask me. Okay?
Yes.
Another very important point in communication is paraphrasing. Again, forget about the terminology. Another skill to have in communication is, suppose you've asked me a question. If I don't understand fully what you're saying, or even if I understand what you're saying, before I go to answer your question, another skill to have in communication skills is paraphrasing, which means you asked me a question. Before I answer, I should ask you. So, Maria, if I understand you correctly, is this what you're saying? Is this what you're asking me? And Maria will say yes. So Maria will feel, so Cyrus understands what I'm asking. Now I know that Cyrus understands. Now Cyrus will hopefully give me the answer to my question. And after I give you the answer, I should be a good communicator and say, did you understand? What did you understand? Any further clarifications? These are the skills of a good communicator. Now think, do your bosses do this in your working life? Do your teachers and professors do this? Do your spouses do this? Do your mother, father, brother, sisters, when you're talking to friends, do this? No, not most of the time. Why? Because people don't have strong communication skills. Communication is not just talking like I'm doing all the time. You've asked me an open-ended question. You've asked me a question where I'm supposed to give you a long answer. That's why I'm talking too much just now. But if you rewind this video where we started, you asked me 3-4 questions and I gave you 2-second answers, very brief, concise, and to the point. That's a good communicator. Okay?
And there are a lot of problems in this world, in our lives, due to bad communication. There are a lot of problems.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important reason for having problems between 2 or 3 or more human beings. Improper, not fully listening, and improper communication, not accurate communication, not understanding what the other person is saying. I may be saying
Everybody
something
just want to listen him or her.
to themselves.
Yes, to themselves. Only to themselves, yes.
Okay. So let's ask me another question.
The other main point of communication, I think, why people have no patience in them. They are talking very rudely. How we improve our speaking skill to improve in a polite way, in a good manner. Tell
Okay,
me
so you
some
asked
key
me 3 questions.
Tell me some key points
You
and
asked,
strategies for it. What should we do?
so you asked me 3 questions. How to be patient, why people are rude, and how to be polite.
Yes.
People are not patient because I think they have not practiced enough to be patient. Their mind is always overactive. They're thinking too much. They are thinking unnecessarily too much, unnecessarily and unnecessarily too much. They're thinking too much, and therefore they're not patient. Patience is a very, very important human skill, not communication skill, human skill. I was not patient till I was 30, 40 years old. I learned it quite late. So it goes with maturity, it's not with age. Somebody has to teach young people what is patience, why is patience important, and how should you be patient. I don't think any school teaches that. And if they do, that's an excellent school to send your children to. If there is a school which teaches children human skills, communication skills, how to listen, those are good schools. And hopefully, those are good teachers who are teaching these children good skills. You can learn arithmetic, algebra, geometry, history, astrology from Google and your YouTube and AI and Chat GPT. And ask who? What's that? Ask that lady's name? Ask Manny. No, what's her name? Ask what? Jenny. What's the
Yes.
other GPT and AI? Ask. Okay, anyway. So you can learn a lot and ask a lot, learn a lot and get information from the net. But learning to be patient is a mental skill. Patience means what? Calmness in your mind. Patience means calmness in your mind. Okay? It's a practice. Go to YouTube, go to AI and ask them, how do I become more patient? They'll give you 20 points or 200 points. I'm talking for 1 hour today. If you're serious, you'll go to YouTube or AI and ask these questions to learn further to what you and I are discussing. But listen to this next sentence very carefully, please. Whatever I'm sharing with you, and if you're taking down notes and if you're understanding and you're listening fully, it's of no use until you don't practice these skills and until you don't keep practicing all the time until it becomes a habit. What is the sense of these 1 hour podcasts, and what is the sense of listening to videos and people talking and people sharing their advices and their knowledge and their experience when we, on the other side of the phone screen or the laptop or the TV screen, just listen and do nothing about the gems of knowledge that they're sharing with us? What's the sense? It's great to listen to these great speakers and people who have great knowledge and they're sharing their knowledge with us. But what's the use when you will forget in the next 15, 20 minutes after the podcast or the video? You won't remember. Now, remembering, that's another skill in communication. So why did I say take down notes? Because I do not want you to remember. I will repeat. I don't want you to remember. Therefore, I'm asking you to take down notes. Jot down points. Because when you're jotting down points, and after you've written a word, what are you doing? You're trying to pay attention to what I'm saying. You're trying to listen to me fully. So, don't, why is it that we don't remember someone's name, but we remember the face that, oh, I met you somewhere, but I don't remember. Normally, people don't even have the guts to say, I'm sorry, I know we met before, but I don't remember your name. They act as if they know each other, remember the names, and they go on with a fictitious, false, ungenuine conversation. Both acting as if they remember each other's names, whereas both or one person has forgotten. So why do people forget someone's name? I forget people's name. Do you know why? because I consciously do not make an effort to remember that person's name. Why? Because that person is not important to me. A human being and I will not remember someone's name, and I don't remember people's names, because when I meet them, I'm not making a conscious effort to remember the name. I'm not registering it in my memory what his or her name is. But if someone is important to you, you will. If there's someone who's there who's going to give you a job, for sure you will remember his or her name, because you are going to go to them again and you need their help. So, the mind can remember things, and I'll give you an example. But the job of the mind is not to remember. I think the main purpose of the mind is not to remember. Do you know, Maria, what is the main purpose of the mind?
Main purpose of the mind. Your communication and conversation is very good, and I am 200% listen to you. So I forgot at that point, this point.
I love your answer. It is a genuine and honest answer, and therefore you are submerged. Thank you for what I'm saying, and therefore you don't know the answer to my question. Very, very few people have the guts to say what you just said, especially on a podcast that people will see all over the world. Basically, you just said, I don't know, and I was not listening to your question. I was submerged and I was too deep down into what you were saying. So thank you for that honesty. So according to me, Maria, the main purpose of the mind is to think, not remember. The mind can remember, and I'm going to give you an example, and remind me to give you an example of how the mind can remember. But the main purpose of the mind is to think. And if I'm going on and on and on and on talking, and I'm not calm and patient, and I don't close my mouth, how can I think? Your mind has to be calm without thoughts. Without thoughts. How do you keep your mind without thoughts? Your mind has to, that's another question. Remind me if you remember the question. The mind has to be without thoughts, without your opening your mouth and talking, so that you have time to think. According to me, the main job of the mind is to think and not to remember. However, the mind has the capacity to think. There is a memory competition, I think, that is held mostly in Doha, Qatar, every year. And a very brief story is that in one of these competitions, there was someone who was first, second, and third. And in those competitions, these people have to remember lots of numbers that stretch as much as my arms are. And the person who came, so on the stage when the prize distribution is being done, and the three people winners are given the first, second, and the third prize, the person who came second whispers something while looking at the person on his left and being the first number one prize winner. He says something. So the person, the MC, the person who's organizing this, who's on the stage, immediately goes observes this body language and realizes he said something. He quickly goes and gives the mic to that person and says, "Excuse me, I just observed that you said something to the winner. What did you say?" And the person says, because the person thought that the person who came second thought that he should have won. He should have got the gold medal. He should have been number one. So he goes and says, sarcastically, as a SAR winner, he says, "Do you remember the last numbers that were supposed to be read out from left to right? And there were lots of numbers. Do you remember that?" So this person who's second thinks that obviously the person who came first is forgotten. But the person who he came first has mastered and practiced the skill of remembering so well that when the person takes the mic to the person who's number one, he says, "Sir, do you remember?" He says, "Yes." "Sir, can you repeat?" And that person who came first repeats that entire long number. And the entire audience is clapping and they're standing and giving him a standing ovation. And then the person goes with the mic, and ladies and gentlemen, the person who came third, now all of a sudden he realizes that the first person who's the winner is mumbling and saying something to the second person who came second. Quickly he runs and says, "Now you, Mr. Winner, you said something to the second person, the person who came second. What did you say?" And he says, "I asked him, does he want me to repeat the numbers backwards?" And the man said, "Yes, I want you to." And he repeated those long numbers, the long stretch of numbers, long set of numbers backwards. So I'm giving this short story by saying that it is a fact that if you practice and train your mind, you can remember those numbers, forget somebody's name. So it's very easy to remember names if they can remember such big, large numbers. So I would suggest that use your mind to think rather than remembering. Okay, next question, please, Mario.
Next question is that I asked you, I think, before that
Sorry. No, you go ahead because you had two more points.
why
Go
some
on to your next question.
why some people are speaking very badly. I saw a lot of people around us. They have no patience, but when they talk to stranger, they are speaking very badly. Why they don't speak politely? Why they have no patience? I want to get you advice for themselves, for everyone, and me also, that how we improve this speaking skill when we talk, when we start our conversation or any communication in any platform. What should we do? How we improve
Okay,
ourselves, especially our speaking skills?
okay. So your previous question was patience, rudeness, and how to be polite. And you again mentioned just now that why do people talk badly and rudely? I think people talk rudely and badly because they are sad, messed up, unhappy in their mind and in their heart, and that is coming out through their words. They could be going through a lot of problems in their life, but that doesn't mean we take it out on other people when we open our mouth.
I think in this world, no one life is perfect.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely. But
it's up
just
to
because,
us how we handle ourselves, how we handle our emotions, and convey it to others.
absolutely agreed. So I have a simple answer for you. Why are people talking badly with others and why are they rude? Because it's their personality, it's their behavior. This is what they are practicing all the time, and therefore they are rude and impolite most of the time. But it's sad. It's sad. And your third question was, therefore, how do we become polite? Practice being polite. You can't. Our parents, when we were kids, told us to be polite and not rude. But our parents kept on hammering this into our heads till even now, be polite, which means that we haven't mastered this human skill of being polite. So just as our parents kept on reminding us to practice being polite, therefore I think the only way to remain polite, most of the time is to try to remain calm and practice being polite. It's not good to be rude. It's not a good human thing to be rude. It's not a good communication skill to be rude. Next question.
Next question. When you ask me about our topic, communication skills, I sit down and the key points which came into my mind, I wrote down on my paper. Then I will forward you on WhatsApp. I think we must have another podcast on this topic because my all questions are not covered in this podcast. I think it's about 50 minutes.
You and I
And
have been
when we
on
are
the
doing
podcast.
our podcast, how we, I think it's very necessary to put a little bit smile on your face and we welcome our guests in a natural way, but we must feel them that we welcome them and we are happy to see them. But people don't do that.
So are you saying that I did not smile enough?
No, sir. I
You're talking
I
in
asked you,
general. I
no,
am.
no, I asked you a question for everyone because I am doing a lot of podcasts at this time in 4 months and I learn a lot from different people. Some people are very serious. I ask a question, they give me a short answer in a very serious, rude mood, or but I ignore it. Then I ask another question. So I ask you a question for everyone who are watching our podcast in our recorded session or at this time. So please give me some tips for this.
So if I understand your question or your thought correctly, Maria, if someone on your podcast gives you a serious answer without smiling, that's okay. But the person should not be serious all the time.
No,
Some
no,
smile should have.
no. I my question is not like that. When we are host and we welcome guests, we welcome our guest first time. We introduce ourselves, then we introduce our guest, then we welcome and meet and greet session, then we start our conversation. But mostly people don't welcome guests in a very good manner, in a very good way. So I ask you a question. Please give me some tips how we improve. As I asked another question before, that how we improve our speaking skills, how we speak politely. Same question is like that. How we welcome our guest in a good way. And why
Now I
don't people?
understand.
Yes, why don't people do that when they start their podcast and welcome anyone? Why they don't feel them very good? That's why I'm asking to you.
Now I understand your question. And I think the answer is that they are not being themselves as a host in the podcast, on the podcast. They have a scripted script. They have a list in front of them, and their job is to finish those questions in that 1 hour. So all they want is they are thinking, how do I finish these 20 questions in 1 hour? They are forgetting to be themselves and they're not smiling because while they're introducing themselves or doing a welcome speech, in their mind they're thinking, I quickly get through this so that I can start asking my questions and ask all my questions. So the answer is because they are not themselves, they are not natural, they are falling into the trap of AI and chat GPT, from where they have prepared their questions which are not their own questions. They are
They are
not
not
natural.
working honestly. They are not talking with their heart.
Very well said. Because they're not talking with their heart. If you're talking with your heart, you can make mistakes in saying something. So
Yes,
what?
yes.
Sorry, I made a mistake. I stand corrected. They are not natural. They are not themselves. They are
When we are
not honest.
natural, emotions are transferred from our words when we are speaking.
Beautifully said.
Yes.
Beautifully said. Please repeat that again. When they are natural,
When we are natural, then our emotions are transferred from our words when we are speaking. But mostly people don't do that in this way.
fantastic. I have written down what you just said, and I found that to be beautiful. When you are natural, your emotions flow through your words beautifully. Well done. Well said. Okay.
And I think
So
we
carry
have
on.
few minutes, so we wind up this
What's
session.
your last? So what's your last question? And I'll try to
Last,
answer in 2 minutes.
okay. How and this is the most important, I think, topic, that how we respect our guest. People mostly don't do that. when they invited any guest on their podcast, on their show, and they want to learn from them, they forget that they must give respect to your guest. This
I'm
is another
smiling
topic.
because okay, but I'll give the answer in 1.5 minutes. And I was smiling because if someone who is a podcast person and who is a host, and if he or she does not know how to smile and how to give respect, he or she should not be a podcaster and should not be a host or hostess. Simple. If there
I
is a
think you're,
doctor,
yes.
if
Continue,
there is
please
a doctor and
continue.
if there is a doctor and the doctor is rude with the patients, the doctor should not be a doctor. He should just be a surgeon. Don't say anything to the patient who is in under anesthesia. So absolutely correct what you said. When you have a guest at home or on your podcast, it is much better to be polite and smiling and welcoming and natural.
I think when we will do that, the guest will never forget you. If he enjoy your show, if he enjoy your welcoming speech, your respect, your emotions, your speaking, everything, each and everything, then I don't think
Fantastic.
guest will forget you. Yes.
I loved what you just said again. Wonderful, Maria.
I think now we have few minutes. So we wind up this session. I think, sir, we have another session on this podcast because our topic is 50% covered and 50-60% is remaining. So we must have another session on this topic again because I think
Inshallah.
it's very, very important topic. Yes.
So you have your questions already ready, which have not been answered, and inshallah, we'll do that on another podcast. I've made notes so that on the next podcast, I don't repeat these same points in detail, but definitely I will enjoy listening to your further questions in the next podcast. So thank you very much for inviting me. I've thoroughly enjoyed sharing most of my thoughts and experiences with you. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for being a patient listener. Apologize for talking too much, but I think that was the objective of the call, to share my learnings for
No,
you and
it's
others.
very,
So
very
thank you very much.
important. It's very, very important. I think when we invited any guest, 90% stage is him or her because we are host. You must ask question,
Thank
but
you.
listen carefully. Then our purpose of this podcast is, I think, completed.
Correct, Maria. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, see you soon in the next session. Take care, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Most welcome, and thank you, Maria, for inviting me.
Thank you so much.